you own a muscle car? Do you plan to in the future? Well, tonight we're going to learn how best to determine its value on the road to protecting your investment. Stay with us. Hello and welcome once again to the video call-in show, that show that invites you to come on as a live video guest to talk about anything your heart's desire. We're on weeknights at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's Monday through Friday, and we hope to see you around. Tonight we have a rather special show. I've said several times in past videos that I am completely open to talking with folks who want to have a special platform, if you will, to talk about whatever they want to talk about, whether it's a promotional thing with their YouTube channel or their business, or maybe they just want a one-on-one with, your host, Jim. Tonight we've got one of those exact type of shows. I was talking with these folks throughout the last few weeks, and we've been trying to get together on a show here tonight, and this is the one. Joining me tonight is Jim Murphy from Muscle Car Appraisal. Jim, how are you this evening?
I'm doing just fine, Jim. Thank you very much for asking.
Oh, you're welcome. It's good to have you on the show tonight. Like I said, this is a first for this format, so we're going to muddle this. We're going to learn how well this can go together. If you're okay with that.
Absolutely.
I was really interested to have you on the show because this is a subject that really means a lot to me. I've mentioned before that I own a classic muscle car. It's a 1970 Mach 1. And I bought it from my father, who bought it new from the factory. In fact, It came with a Windsor, and he said, nope, I ordered it with a Cleveland. So it's got its original Cleveland with it as well. I'm very proud of that car. So I am close to this subject. Why don't you tell us a bit about your business? Start things off.
So, I've been a long-time licensed appraiser, 35 years and counting. And we offer many different types of appraisals. We can basically inspect a car for just about any reason. Anything from an insurance value all the way to, unfortunately, if the car becomes a total loss, we can help determine an accurate and true market value for that exact vehicle based on its actual condition, and a wide range of things in between, whether it be a pre-purchase inspection, maybe you just can't get there, maybe you want a very experienced pair of eyes to look at the vehicle and give you a fully detailed report. Maybe the car is at an auction and you want to bid on phone or online, but again, you want an experienced pair of eyes to inspect the car and tell you all about it to see if it's something that you will actually pursue. And this past year, a very popular one was pre-sale inspection. People want the car verified, documented, stated whether or not it has matching numbers, engine, transmission, rear end, things like that. An original sheet metal car. They want the car fully documented for exactly what it is. They list the car for sale, and when they have a potential buyer that has reached out to them, they can then forward our report. The potential buyer will read that and see some photographs, and then they can make a decision as to whether or not it's the car for them. Generally, if the seller gets a call back from someone that has read our report, it's usually a good indicator that they're pretty interested.
Yeah, well, that's becoming more and more popular nowadays, isn't it? You and I are no spring chickens, so we kind of remember when these things first came out of the factory. Am I right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and when they were trading
by the Chevrolet dealership and seeing the new cars in the showroom, I would specifically take the long way home from school just to walk by that Chevy dealership and see the cars in the showroom and out on the lot.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah. Me too. Me too. And always wanting just about all of them, even though we had no idea at the time what their future value or even cultural relevance would be. Right. So
Yeah, true.
this is a great time to be in that sort of business. Tell us how you got into what made you want to become a muscle car appraiser.
I had a friend knock on my door one evening, unannounced, and said, "Hey, let's go for a ride in my new car." And he had a hot rodded '68 Camaro,
Mm.
and we went out, pulled a few hole shots, power shifted some gears. I was 14 years old at the time, and I instantly became hooked. And that's where my true hardcore automotive passion started, and it hasn't
Mm.
stopped since. Every day I try and learn something new. I keep my hands dirty in the business, literally and figuratively. Try and learn something new every day. And I've done body work. I've painted cars. I've built engines, done frame off restorations. Probably about the only thing I haven't done is cut two cars in half and make one good one out of two smashed ones.
Oh yeah, but that's a skill that's needed today, because a lot of times you'll find just basket cases that need that sort of love. Oh, speaking of which, I'm not challenging you here, but I do want to show you the car I was talking about. I'm not asking you to appraise it. I don't even think it's possible from these pictures. But here, take a look at these. This is the '70 Mustang I was talking about. It doesn't look like that now. It's actually fully disassembled. My son and I are getting ready to do a full restoration on it. But that and here of interest, that's me at the Midwest Mustang Nationals right after we first restored it the first time. It actually got fourth place that year in
Very nice.
in the stock class, and this is with many minor modifications. I've always looked at it as though I don't want to modify that car to the extent where you couldn't put it back to factory original condition. Now, that is actually a pretty good question. How do you handle, and I know we didn't talk about this specifically, but how do you handle the factory stock, the Trailer Queen, as opposed to the resto mods? Is there a special way you appraise those different type of cars?
Yeah, I watch the market for both. And each resto mod is a car of its own. Everybody has their own way of doing it. I'll look at the components that are in a resto mod. I'll check out exactly what fuel pump is in the car and see the spec as to how many gallons per hour it's pushing, free flow, and at pressure. Again, look at all the hardware front to back and the quality of the build. And although there's not another one exactly like it for a comparable, you get a good grasp as to how the car was built and to the extent. Is it naturally aspirated? Is it turbocharged? Is it blown? How many, is it a big block or a small block? Is it carbureted or fuel injected? Does it have mini tubs or full-blown narrow rear? Roll cage, roll bar, types of brakes, wheels and tires. And you kind of are able to get a car into a category as far as the level of the build and to the extent of the build. There's some guys that'll just put big brakes, wheels, and tires and call it a resto mod. And that's very different than a twin turbo LS swapped mini tubbed Ford 9-inch 4-link rear with a full-blown custom interior digital dash. So I pay very close attention to how cars are built and what cars in the similar category or similar level of build are bringing at auction. And if you look at enough of them and really pay attention, you can get a good grasp as to a realistic market value for the car. And then the factory appearing car, that comes down to, most of the time, quality of the build. Are the panel gaps proper? Is it again factory sheet metal, or is it an aftermarket car that's been worked like crazy to try and establish lines? And is under the hood proper? Does it have date-coded spark plug wires and correct exhaust manifolds? Are the colors under the hood proper? There's some Chevrolets that have literally 5 different percentages of gloss black under the hood. And it ranges from 30 to 65%. Can somebody take a meter and put it on a color and determine, oh, that one's 47, it's not 50? No. But are you showing contrast between 2 pieces? Yes. So that's a better and higher detailed restoration than somebody that just took a rattle can and painted everything black under the hood. So again, it's all about details and quality.
Which I'm sure you run into a lot of those rattle can cars, do you not?
Yeah, no, unfortunately, where I run into them the most is at auctions.
Oh, really?
Wow. There's a lot of. I have this term called lipstick on a pig, and unfortunately, I see that at auctions sometimes. It's pretty obvious that somebody just hurried this car along, trying to make it clean and shiny, hoping that it brings big money at auction. When it goes under the lights on stage, all those lights are engineered to make the car look like $1 million.
Oh, for sure.
And people will, get a car, get it to auction quick, and just keep their fingers crossed and hope for the best. And then,
and I asked specifically about the resto mods. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
An interested buyer, can contact myself and say, this car looks really good. The description sounds really good. If you're at this auction, can you get your eyeballs on it? Give me a call. Let me know what you think. I can tell pretty quick as to whether or not it's a decent car, or again, if it's just one of those that was hurried to auction. No disrespect to any of the auctions that are out there. There are some absolutely phenomenal restorations, but not every single one that's in line.
Yeah. And, I never really considered, when you go to purchase one of the higher priced muscle cars, especially when they're classics, to talk to an appraiser and find out, what is correct on this car and what is not prior to throwing down all that cash. That makes a lot of sense. Do you find that's a big part of your market?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially for the people that don't have the ability to travel and get to see the vehicle. They'll contact me and say, can you go out and look at this vehicle? This is how it's advertised for sale. This is what I'm interested in. And one of my specific questions to my customer is specifically, what is going to be a deal breaker for this car? Perfect example, I had, I'm in Connecticut, and there was a 70 Boss 302 car that was here in Connecticut. My customer was from Oklahoma. The car was advertised as a factory paint matching numbers car. And I asked him straight out, what's a deal breaker for you? And he said, if this car is not factory paint, I don't want it. And then we got more specific. If it's factory paint, but it needs quarter panels, do you want to get into big body work? He said, no quarter panels, no floors. I'll change fenders because they're nuts and bolts, but I don't want to get into serious rust repairs. You guys live in the Northeast and you're famous for rusty cars. So I try and be as fair and honest as possible with everyone. And I quoted him a price. And I said, look, if I'm able to tell really quick that that this car is not going to meet your criteria, I will lower my price, because I'm not going to be there for hours scrutinizing this car bumper to bumper. And unfortunately for him, he was really excited about the car, especially based on the way it was advertised. The car was a full repaint, probably somewhere just before this particular gentleman had bought it in 1981. And it was pretty much an Earl Scheib $99 paint job. As you know, a Boss 302 car has stripes, decal. Every single one of the stripes, they're black, had orange paint on them. Every single one of them. And
Oh,
then the door handles, the bumpers, moldings, nameplates. Just somebody probably paid $99 for the paint job, and they got what they paid for.
boy, I tell you what, that's funny you bring that up because I got into a whole string of Earl Scheib former employee videos. If you ever have a chance and you want to find out just how shoddy a job they did, I'll paint any car for $99.95. He
Yep.
said,
I remember those
you
commercials.
when oh yeah, he said you got to get out. If you're not out of your car fast enough, they'll paint your shoes. I always thought that was the greatest thing in the world. But yeah, back in our day, that was Earl was the butt of many jokes, and he didn't have his staff care much for bright work at all.
It was pretty obvious on this
Nope.
car.
Oh yeah, yeah. I actually had a buddy took his to Mecum, like in 1971, and it was a Camaro with, and I don't know, it wasn't even a split grill, but it was a 1970 Camaro, and they painted the stripe that was factory laid, from the B pillar on forward into a point. They literally painted over that stripe without any sanding, nothing. It was a decal stripe too. It's like, you got to be
Well,
kidding me. God, I imagine you run into stuff like that. Maybe not to those extremes all the time, but the rattle can and that sort of thing. It's got to be something else.
yeah, most
Oh,
of the work nowadays is a little better than that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it almost has to be because of the market, right? The market has just exploded.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody had asked me about 3 months ago, do you think the collector car market is dying? And I said, absolutely not. It is
Hmm.
growing. I said, just think of the aftermarket companies that are out there producing all these specialized parts for all these resto mod cars, the high end builds. The people that have $200,000 to $250,000 into a build of a car.
Oh yeah.
And some guys are into it just for the build, and then they'll bring it to
Hmm.
auction. It's a piece of jewelry, and they'll get 50 to 70 cents on a dollar based on what they had into it if it's a real quality build. Some
Oh
guys
yeah.
are very fortunate to be able to put together the car very reasonably priced and maybe
Hmm.
even make a couple bucks.
Hmm.
Again, very, very well presented, desirable model.
Yep.
And, and then there's everything in between. A lot
How
of
true.
factory appearing restorations as well. That's very
Hmm.
hot in the market.
Oh yeah, yeah. Let me take a minute and thank our guests. We got Justin Bennett on and Carla CYR. Pleasure to see you there, Carla. And TTF Train. Good to see you, buddy. So, Jim, tell us what does it take to become an auto appraiser, and why should you worry about the background and the credentials of said appraiser?
What does it take to become an appraiser? Well, personally, I would want to have somebody with years of experience.
Mhm.
If you could find a guy that is, either young but extremely passionate and has, done his homework, inspected cars for years, learned, there's books out there, there's old timers that'll teach you everything that they know. And then, there's guys that are in their 60s. They were in their prime when these cars were brand new and they
Mhm.
remember details. Like I said, I walked by a Chevy dealership looking at these cars. There's guys that actually owned them and drove them. There's a gentleman that works for me. His profile's on my website, Don Bjorklund.
Hmm.
When he was 9 years old, he started to modify his bicycle. So you can only imagine what happened when he got into automobiles. And
Oh
he was a
yeah.
dealer service manager. He was in the parts department. He started off in the detail department. So he was in his prime when these cars were brand new. And he's owned, God, I wouldn't be surprised if it's over 100 cars. And
Wow.
he was a licensed appraiser. I worked with him at an insurance company, and we had the greatest time. And now he works with me.
Hmm.
The knowledge that he has and of course the trained eyes of being an appraiser and actually doing hands-on body work. You just can't beat that type of experience versus, say, somebody just fresh out of school, maybe took a quick course about a couple things, hasn't looked at a couple thousand cars yet, or that appraiser is not going to, in my opinion, and in all due respect to anybody in the business, going to be able to tell you the specifics and catch certain things and realize things like someone like myself or Don with our years of experience, like what we can pick up on. So, and it all comes down to details. If you want to know about a car, the more experienced and trained the eyes are, the more information you're going to get. Excuse me for a moment.
Oh no, that's quite all right. It's literally a learned skill, but it's also a skill that you have to love. I mean, I know that you've been around vehicles all your life, and you're a gearhead just like I am. In fact, you told me a bit about your drag racing. Are you active in drag racing right now?
I've been too busy with the business to actually get behind the wheel and bang some gears. But in the past, most definitely, up and down the East Coast with some friends. World's fastest streetcar competition, 3 stages of nitrous on big cubic inches with a 5-inch muffler exhaust on a car. Barely, it was a race car with license plates is basically what it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Full tube chassis car with working headlights and taillights. Running in the high 6-second zone. And you can actually get it out on the street and drive it around a bit.
Pushing about how many horses.
Traffic or make a 200-mile trip with the car, but for its intended purpose, it did the trick. And then Don and I have put together a few cars that look basically stock and tweak this, tweak that, used every old school trick in the book, and get the car to perform quite well. It's a great time.
Oh yeah. It's the challenge, right? I mean, you're not only battling competitors, but you're also battling a clock, and then you're also battling your own knowledge, right? You always want to outdo yourself.
Yeah, man versus machine. And I have a theory: yes. I will not be beat by a mechanical device. So if it's not running perfectly well, I want to figure out what it is that's causing the issue, and then of course rectify that issue and get that thing to run like a Swiss watch. Right.
Well, you guys have also created a YouTube channel. I want to say fairly recently. Let's see, what's your earliest video here? Okay, about 2 months ago. So you're about as old as I am. But you want to take a look at that real fast and tell us a little bit about where you plan on going with that? Here, let's take it up here. There she is. It's at Muscle Car Appraisal. But go ahead, Jim. Tell us a little bit about what you plan on doing with your YouTube channel.
I have a good friend, Bob, that we went to lunch one day, and he had an idea to start this YouTube channel. Our kids were high school classmates. He was aware of my appraisal business. And he had this idea. He said, I'll be the guy behind the scenes doing all the editing and all the technical stuff. He said, you be the man behind the microphone and, provide me with the video, and we'll make it happen. And we're having a lot of fun doing it. I got to give a shout out to Bob. I know he's watching. So we
how you doing, Bob? Yeah, Bob's actually the first one to contact me about doing this with you guys, and seems like a great guy, and he's doing a bang-up job. I love the thumbnails. Of course, you can never go wrong having some wonderful classic cars on your thumbnails, and you can even see the evolution. He started out more text, and he went straight to the heart of the matter, which you show those cars, man, and people know exactly what they're looking at. Bob's done a great job.
He told me right in the beginning, he said, we are going to look back at the beginning, at our first video, and we are going to laugh as to, the quality. He said, but every time we make a new video, we're going to get better. And I'm quite a bit more comfortable with our latest videos compared to the first one. So he was right on the money. Again, Bob's a great guy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I am subscribing now. We didn't have a whole lot of time to talk before, and I plan on going through all of these videos. They really intrigue me. I don't want to say that I'm
the early ones.
That's okay. Hey, don't laugh at my early ones either. Oh man, it's one of the more not famous, but one of the more viewed YouTube people that help other new YouTubers. He gave us a piece of advice. The groups on some of the live streams. He said, just if you're gonna do some YouTube stuff, get a few things together and then do it before you're ready. And he said, even if your videos suck coming out of the gate, leave them up there. Leave them up there. At least you'll see where you came from and where you are now, and so will everybody else. So I'm okay with that. Yeah, Bob, you've done a good job on this, man. I really like that. And you also told me a little secret about the car in the header. Let's go back to that real fast. That happens to be your personal car, doesn't it? That white Firebird?
Yeah.
That's
white 1970 and a half Trans Am. Yes, that is my own personal car.
Yeah, it's a beaut. That is a fantastic car.
I saw that car pull out of the post office here in town one day, and I was able to catch the license plate. And that was a long time ago when you were able to ask a police officer, hey, can you run this plate for me on the QT? And the guy lived here in town. The car was purchased. He was the original owner. The car was purchased from a Pontiac dealership here in town. And he had maintained it over the years, and the car was just absolutely fantastic. So I chased that car for 13 years. The guy's name is Roger. I would visit him in the spring and the fall at a minimum every year for 13 years. Roger, do you want to sell the car? Roger, do you want to sell the car? Roger, you ready to sell the car? Finally, after 13 years, he had some changes in his life. He called me up and he said, Jim, I'm ready to sell the car. Are you still interested? And I said, absolutely. And next thing you know, I had the car I didn't even test drive it. I just went to his house. We made the paperwork happen, and I drove away with a smile this big on my face.
I can imagine. Yeah, she's
an incredible survivor car. It's been stripped and repainted, but it has all the factory sheet metal. The Endura nose on the front is the original. Nothing has been changed on the car except for the shocks, the tires, the carpeting, and the driver's seat upholstery. All the moldings, all the trim, everything under the hood is factory original on the car. Just an incredible survivor car. Dash pad is not cracked or faded or warped. The package tray, that's visible through the back window, same thing, not faded, cracked, warped. It is just, and the car is just absolutely amazing to drive. I even figured out how to open up the windows and change the vents in the kick panels. I can drive along. It doesn't even mess up my hair. not that I have a lot left, It's there.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's true in any car for me. even my ragtop Jeeps. Well, she is a beaut. I don't have a close-up, but I got to go back to that one more time. Yeah, she's sweet. And you said that photo in particular was a labor of love for your photographer with layers and whatnot.
Yes, I have a girl that is a professional photographer that I can call, and she's going to be there for me. And I called her up one day and I said, I need some photographs for the website. And she brought probably $30,000 worth of photography equipment with her, and all these, special custom suitcases. And she took photos. If you go back to that website, the black C7 Corvette, that's actually Don's car. She photographed that car.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Is this one right in the center or near the center? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. Just to the right of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Black 67 Corvette. That's Don's car. She photographed that. And that's, very, very high resolution photograph. My car, that's in my garage. We call that the muscle car garage. And
and why not?
probably took close to 100 photographs of that car over a period of a couple hours. And then compiled them all together, layered them to ultimately get that photograph. And some people in the know have looked at the detail at that and have been very impressed. Sadie is
and I
absolutely photographer.
Yeah, and I actually lied. I had forgotten that it is actually on the front page of your website. Let's go there real fast. There's a nice bigger shot of that beauty.
Yeah,
very
a lot of work
nice.
Went into the lighting, on the techniques that she used. Her name is Sadie Fortin, Fortin. She's got a website, Sadie Fortin Photography. You can look her up. Bennett, her dad was a photographer. She actually has a tattoo of a Polaroid Instamatic on her shoulder. That's how dedicated.
Oh, does she really?
Is. Yeah.
I'll go back and I'll try to, if you could actually email me the link to her website, I'll link it down in the description box for us. All right. So maybe she can get some love as well as we move forward.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just a quick shout out to the people that may be watching. If anybody has some questions, now you mentioned Carla Sear was watching. If she has any questions, or anybody else that's on the list, if they have questions they want to send in, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Well, it looks like Bob's joined us. Howdy, Bob. How are you? And then we've got Flash in the Pan. How you doing, man? Yeah, if you guys have any questions at all that you'd like to pose to Jim, he'll be more than happy to field them for you. But I've got to know now, kind of a high level. Why would you want to have your car appraised? Now, no, I should preface that with help me understand. We're not just talking about classic muscle cars. I saw the Corvette, which is a rather late model. We're talking about pretty much any car of relative value, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So why would someone want to have their... Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry if you had something.
Yeah, there could be a number of different reasons as to why someone would want to have their car appraised. I list 6 major categories on my website. That's musclecarappraisal.net. And it could be, as we discussed, somebody that's looking to purchase a car. They want to have it inspected by an experienced pair of eyes. They may be looking to sell their car and want it fully documented. It could be for insurance value. Somebody may have just gone through a full restoration on the car, and they've contacted their insurance company, and the insurance company said, gee, that's out of the value that you are requesting is out of our parameters. So in order to insure it for that amount, you are going to need an appraisal. And that's my job, to get out there, inspect the car, and document it accordingly, put a value on it. And my customer can then send that to their insurance company and hopefully increase the value of the policy on the car.
You actually mentioned
for divorce, estates.
You mentioned all of those right here on your website. I noticed, right?
Yes. There's 6 categories listed there.
Yep.
And again, at the auction, we can inspect a car. You're somewhat limited as to what you can physically do at an auction. Obviously, I can't roll around with a floor jack and get it up in the air, but I will lay on the ground and get a good look underneath. I carry a small borescope camera if I need to get something into a tight crevice to look at stamped or casting numbers on a block. That little borescope camera does a phenomenal job, so I can see numbers. I might put it in, open up the trunk and put it between the floor and the quarter panel just to see what's going on down in that corner, because you're not going to fit your head in there. And somebody
Right.
wouldn't be too happy if I literally climbed inside the trunk and tried to stick my head in a, you know, in a small place. But
That has to
you
be
know, you
true.
can look at the car, see its overall condition, kind of get a really good scope as to the quality of the build or the restoration.
Hmm.
If there's paperwork, you can read that. If the consigner is there, you know, I'll talk to the consigner and ask him a bunch of questions. And I can, you know, with my 35 years in the business, I can read a person pretty well. And you
Hmm.
can tell whether the consigner is, you know, straightforward, honest, really knows the car. Sometimes they'll tell you straight out, well, I just bought it 3 months ago and I'm just here to flip it. And I really can't tell you too much. So basically, what
Hmm.
you see is what you get. You know, versus a guy that had just restored the car and knows every nut and bolt and everything about it. Those
Yeah.
are fantastic conversations to have. And I can gain a
Hmm.
lot of information about the car, pass that on to my customer so they can make a very informed decision.
That's cool. Yeah. And what a great service that is. We actually have a question. Um, Carla asks, Jim, what are your 3 favorite muscle cars and why? Bet you don't get that
Oh boy.
asked every day, right?
No, 3 of them. Wow, Carla's
3
going
of
to
them.
make me think here. Well, I got to put the Trans Am on the list. Again, I chased
Yeah.
that car for years. I've had it for a long time. Great looking car, phenomenal driving car. Let's see, what else? I have a 68 Chevelle Super Sport. It's a 375 horse car with a 410 gear and a 4-speed. No power steering, no power brakes. Love that car, but it's a bear to drive on the road. It's
Oh,
got
seat
red
of the
line
pants.
body
Yeah.
size. Yeah, the car just anytime you get on the gas hard, it just starts smoking the tires and sliding sideways. No power steering, um, 4-wheel drum brakes. It doesn't want to stop. So,
Oh
you know,
boy.
great
Yeah.
car, but it's not going to make my top 3. Value wise, it's right up there with,
Hmm.
you know, the cars that I have in my garage. But as far as drivability, we're going to put that one somewhere else on the list. I have a twin turbo Supra, very, you know, popular car in the tuner world, and that is just a phenomenal car to drive.
Mm.
Comfortable, handles, brakes. I'm not particularly happy with the amount of attention that it gets. I prefer to maybe be a little bit more low key, but that car is incredibly popular in the market, and you don't see them around this area. So, and the car's black, so you know you start cruising that around, and everybody's looking at you.
Oh yeah.
Can't leave it anywhere, you know, because it attracts people like there's no tomorrow. It's just a big
Hmm.
magnet. Um, but you maybe we're going to make that car number 3, and it
There you
ultimately
go.
is going to come down to the Trans Am, and I have a second generation Cadillac CTSV,
Oh, okay.
and that is just an amazing car. It does everything that you could ever want a car to do. Runs really hard. They're 556 horsepower out of the box.
Hmm.
I drove it for, with my background, I drove it for 2 weeks, and okay, I'll admit I was bored. So I took it apart and I had to make it 630 horsepower.
He just
Now
had
the
to.
car runs and drives absolutely phenomenal. It'll stop on a dime and give you change. It'll go around a corner with the best of them. And the brakes are incredible. If you're in the passenger seat and you don't have your seatbelt on and you're not paying attention and I'm at speed and just nail the brakes, you are going through the windshield.
Oh man.
And the car stops really hard. And you're
Oh, I
tooling
bet.
down the highway. Everything is quiet. You're comfortable. The radio works really well. You
Hmm.
kind of got to wonder why do you have these other cars? Because they don't hold a candle to this Cadillac. But you know, they're different categories, different purposes. So I got to say, it might be a coin toss, but I'm going to give the edge to the Trans Am. Again, just because I chased that car for so long, and I've had it for so long. So I'm going to put the Trans Am at number 1, the Cadillac at number 2, and we'll put the Supra at number 3.
There you go. There you go, Carla.
Long-winded answer for Carla, but she got her answer.
She got her answer. And since she said Jim, I'll make mine real short. Number 1 has to be my Mach 1. I mean, there's so much sentimental value there. If money and, if money were no object, I'd have to go with the AC Cobra, the original AC Cobra. And number 3, it's a toss-up. I really, really fell in love with the 63 split window, the Corvette 63 split window. Oh, man, would I love to have one of those. I know there's so much controversy around that particular model, but it still holds a very, very good place in my heart. My buddy's brother had one, and I got to drive one back in before I had my license, actually. Stay in school, kids. And it was just a wonderful event. God, that must have been about 72 or 3. So I couldn't have been but 10 years old when I drove that. It was awesome.
Well,
it wasn't much of a drive, trust me, but it was awesome.
Yeah, there are great cars, stunning, very noticeable, 1 year only deal. The market is hot on them. Expect 63 fuel injected Corvette. They're 6-figure cars all day long if they're a nice proper car. Your Mach 1. They're doing well in the market. A properly restored, matching numbers car. They're into the 6-figure range. And the Mach 1 that year had the fastest 0 to 60 time of all the Mustangs. It even beat out a Boss 429 car.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Cleveland is more desirable than a Windsor, so I'm glad your dad stood firm and demanded the Cleveland over the Windsor.
But he opted for a 3-speed. Yeah, he opted for a 3-speed though. So now I've got to throw. Actually, what I want to do is throw in a 6 and keep the 3-speed over to the side in case I want to bring it back to stock.
Yeah.
But you have to also understand
something that something that I recommend to people. They say, I'm going to restore this car. What should I do? What should I not do? And I tell them, okay, if you wanted to make it a resto mod, so it's enjoyable to drive, just save all the old parts that you take off the car. So if you ever decided to sell the car, sell it as a package deal with all of the upgraded parts that are on the car, but then give them the original parts. And if they ever wanted to make it a factory appearing car, they have all of the original equipment to do so. I recently appraised a 65 GTO, an extreme resto mod. This guy has been everywhere with the car. He and his wife, they put their stuff in the trunk. They'll go for a long weekend. He'll drive it 500-600 miles, comfortable as can be. Runs perfect. It handles, it brakes, it steers, got air conditioning, good tunes, just a fantastic car to drive. He saved everything. There's 2 things that are not with the car any longer, and that's the muffler and the 2 tailpipes. That is it. He's got the original fan, the pulleys, the engine from air cleaner to oil pan and everything in between. He's got the head pipes for the exhaust. Just the muffler and the tailpipes are not there. The rear end, the transmission, every molding and everything that he took off and eventually changed, bumpers and all. He has all that. So he's got a fantastic car. He's enjoying it tremendously, driving it all over the place in the good weather. And if he gets caught in the rain, the wipers work. He doesn't mind. He'll clean the car up and make it look perfect again. But when I appraised that, I gave him 2 values. One as the car sits exactly as it is, and another value as a full package with all of the original born with equipment from the car. And he contacted his insurance company, insured the whole shebang, and zero issues. They were, once they read the report, they were happy to issue the policy.
Can I ask you what the difference was between the two?
$20,000.
Oh, well, that solves my argument or my question.
Because he had everything. Again, with the exception mufflers and tailpipes, that's really no big deal. That's not going to be a make or break
consumables
deal.
Almost, yeah.
Engine, transmission, rear end, the original bumpers, and everything. He had every single piece.
That's remarkable when somebody takes that sort of care and does it right. I can say the same thing actually about the Mustang, with the notable and sad exception of the driver's door. When we had it restored in, I want to say 79, 80, there was some damage to the driver's door, and the body shop that we contracted, without telling us, threw away that door and swapped it out for one out of a Cougar. So that door is gone. Not only that, but it's a hair short. So now when we do this next restoration, I'm going to have to go look for an original. So I didn't mean to bring up that sad point because
make a proper body line and get your gaps even side to side. It'll make a difference, especially if you hire me to come out there, I'm going to notice that stuff.
Well, I probably will, and it won't be. It'll be more for insurance purposes than anything else, because I've already told myself, since we've had it since new. I'm going to pass it to my boy. In fact, we're going to work on it together. Then I'll be able to enjoy it for a few years, and I'm just going to pass it on to him and let him do with it whatever he wants to. But I don't see it leaving the family anytime soon. He's about as in love with that car as I am. So
fantastic.
Yeah, Carl also wants to know.
Great to hear.
Oh, yeah. Really looking forward to working on it. In fact, he's buying a house, actually right in the process. And that lucky guy has found a place with a 60 by 70 barn, fully concrete, fully heated. It's not cooled, but it's got the semi-sized doors. I don't know what height they are. And you can literally fit more than a dozen cars in there, freeform. And that's where we're going to do it now. So having the space is everything. Looking forward to that. So, Jim, Carl also wants to know, she says, I know you mentioned auctions. What auctions do you go to?
I make it to a minimum of 3 Mecum auctions a year. Kissimmee in January, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and their Indianapolis show. Indianapolis is number 2 on the list for size. They have about 2,000 cars this year. Kissimmee had 3,500 cars. Fantastic show. Barrett-Jackson has a show here in Connecticut. They do 4 auctions a year. They have one down in Florida. Their big one, also in January, is in Scottsdale, Arizona. I haven't been to that one yet. A lot of hype about that place, a lot of commercialization about that auction. Huge auction, very well attended. But it's starting right when the Mecum auction is ending. And there's a big difference between the 2 auctions. Mecum is, in my opinion, more towards a true muscle car type auction. And that's more my style. Barrett-Jackson has a very wide range of cars. Pricing and desirability. American, European, you name it, it's there.
Interesting.
And time is a factor for me as well, to be down in Florida for X number of days and then just immediately get on a cross-country flight and be out in Arizona for X number of days. Be an absolutely fantastic time, but I do have family obligations and other business obligations that I need to stay on top of. So, but I'll get to Arizona for a Barrett-Jackson auction. That's something that I definitely have to experience. There's a few other Mecum auctions here and there that I try and get to. But again, sometimes time is a major factor as to whether or not I can actually get there. But most definitely those three every year: Harrisburg, Indianapolis, and Kissimmee.
Well, next time you're in Indianapolis, man, we should hook up. I've been to that one a couple times. I think that would be fantastic.
Most definitely. That's in May.
Yeah, you know why they do that. Yeah.
Most definitely, I'll be in touch and see if we can meet up. It'd be a pleasure to shake your hand.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, for those people who might be watching right now, will be watching this after it's uploaded to YouTube, done processing. I'm sure they're going to ask, how does one go about getting their muscle car appraised, and what would you expect from that appraisal?
You can contact us. Our website is musclecarappraisal.net. And on that website, there's multiple areas for a contact us button. Our email address of info@musclecarappraisal.net is listed there as well. So you can, and my cell phone number is there. And if you call, if I'm awake, I'm going to answer the phone 7 days a week.
Oh, so that's your cell phone? Yeah, that is your cell phone, isn't it? On the top of your webpage?
Yes, it is. Yep. And I'm the one that answers the phone. So you're going to get your answers right up front.
That's the personal touch.
Yeah. So, reach out to me, tell me what your wishes and desires are, and I'll give you the answers right on the spot.
Sweet.
What they can expect from an appraisal, again, depending on the type of appraisal, if you're looking for an auction appraisal, I can call you, right while I'm standing next to the car and give you a good description as to what's going on. If you have a specific question, maybe about something on the driver's side of the car, I can walk over to the car right there and instantaneously answer your question. So, some good information available there. If your inspection has something to do with insurance value, I can state I do not do them over the internet by photographs. I just flat out refuse. I will not do it. It does not do any justice to my customer, to the car, or to my business. I know that there are other companies out there that advertise, send us some photographs, we'll write you up something. That's not the way I do my business. My appraisals are very in-depth, very detailed.
We actually have
10 pages or more sometimes, depending on the car and the build.
Yeah, we actually have some examples here. I think it's one of your cover pages, right?
Yeah, that's a recently completed appraisal for a gentleman out in the Chicago area. That's the cover page. I put all my documentation in a 3-ring binder book, and so I made that cover page for him. That's the first page where it'll list. For our purposes here, I deleted his personal name and address and things.
Oh, sure.
But I'll list the vehicle owner's name and address, give a description of the car, including the vehicle identification number, and a very brief opening as to, my inspection of the car, and, that this is going to be a detailed listing. And this is a typical page, just single-spaced, jam-packed with information. This is page 3 of 12. This was a 12-page appraisal. Actually, this appraisal is for that GTO that we spoke of earlier.
Oh, is it? Okay, I might have gotten out of order.
The appraisal looks the same. It's just different words. But again, it is just jam-packed with information. That Charger appraisal was 14 pages long. And
this is still the other one.
I list different categories. So this page starts the beginning of the engine and transmission specifics. I'll get into cubic inches, pistons, crankshaft, connecting rods, camshaft. I'll get into lift and duration of the camshaft, compression ratio, cylinder heads, exhaust, cooling system, fuel line diameter, what it has
Wow.
for positive crankcase ventilation system. I mean, you name it. If the information is there, if I can see it with my eyes or there's paperwork documentation, I'm going to get it into my appraisal. This starts the
Wow.
beginning of the interior category. I'll specify everything about the gauges, what gauges are in it,
Mm-hmm.
whether the lenses are original, if they've been replaced, if they're scratched or polished to perfect clarity. You name it, it's in there. I'll look at seat belts to determine if they're the original ones for the car. I'll mention a date code on a seat belt. And again, to determine if it's the original born with seatbelt for the car, or if they've been changed or
Sure.
upgraded or anything like that. And this is getting
Right.
towards the end. This is page 11 of 12 for this particular appraisal, where I run through a summary of the build of the car, and then I'll get into some additional narration about some history of the car, maybe its rarity, and other things that are not specified in the equipment listing or the component listing of the car.
Uh-huh.
So,
Uh-huh.
very,
Then,
very detailed report. I'll
and
spend
you also, oh, go ahead.
4 hours. Yeah, I'll spend 4 hours at the car, looking at the car, documenting everything. If the customer has paperwork, I will read every slip of paper. I'll ask them a ton of questions. What's the history on the car? How long have you had it? What was it like when you got it? What have you done to it since you've purchased it? So on and so forth. And I'll just absorb everything that I can and get it into that report to make it as detailed as possible.
Yeah, along with pictures as well, right? We can show the Charger here. Here's just a few examples of the pictures that you take very detailed pictures of all types of areas, right?
Yes. There are 6 main photographs that an insurance company wants for an appraisal for their consideration. It's 4 corner shots,
Mm-hmm.
1 under the hood, 1 of the interior. This happens to be
Mm.
3 that I chose for a sample here of this
Right.
Charger. I turn the resolution up on the camera. I'll print a 4x6 photograph, include it in that 3-ring binder for documentation, and then I'll take photographs of everything else on the car. I'll get underneath it. I'll show the gauges in the dash, the seats, the headliner, the sun visors, the radio. I mean, you name it. And then I'll include those photographs in the email version that I send to the customer. But I also put all of that information on a flash drive and include that with the hard copy to the customer. That way, if their computer ever crashes or they mistakenly delete the email, they'll have a backup of all my work on the flash drive.
And they can take this straight to their insurance company and say, "Look, this is literally the value of this car. I need you to protect me on this, right?"
Yes. Yep. And there's quite a number of the major insurance companies, somebody like Haggerty, Grundy, American Collectors. They've seen my work
Mm-hmm.
over the years. They know who I am,
So they trust you.
the degree
Mm-hmm.
of professionalism, and basically, I've spoken to their underwriters and some of their agents, and they say, we know who we are, and when we see your name at the top and your license numbers at the end, we're going to insure the car for what you have it written up for. And I try and
That's
be
good to know.
fair and honest. There's some people that are just simply upside down on their cars, and you can only do so much to help those people. I don't stretch things to an extreme to put my business in jeopardy, and then ultimately
and you wouldn't
make
want
them
to.
a little, yeah. And I don't want any issues for them either when they approach the insurance company. They'll just
Right.
that'll make my phone ring and say, Jim, I got rejected. I want my money back. And in all my years of doing this, I have never had one rejected or even questioned. And I make it very clear. If an insurance company has any questions about anything in the appraisal or about my inspection of the car, I want them to contact me directly. And again, it's my cell phone number. I'm going to answer the phone. They have a question. I got everything in my brain right up here, and I'm going to answer that question instantaneously and give them but my phone has never rang. Nobody's ever called me to ask me anything. They just issue the policy and rate the policy accordingly, and everybody's happy.
That's tremendous. That's not what you normally hear, right? 100% success rate.
No.
Champworks, Champworks Garage has joined us as well. He says the Bronco is really coming up in value. He's talking about the original Gen 1 Bronco. According to Haggerty, is the #1 rated vehicle for 2019. He actually owns a 75 of that model soft top, and he also has a hard top along with it. I've seen some of his videos. It's a really sweet looking vehicle. It really is.
Yeah, they pop up at auction. They bring a lot of attention. If I stand there and I'm looking at the vehicle, the amount of traffic walking around that vehicle and the people, just talking about it, they attract a lot of attention. They are becoming more and more and more popular, for sure.
Now, do you find yourself, I know you say muscle car, do you find yourself asked to, because I wouldn't think that would classify as in the muscle car category necessarily, but you get people asking you to appraise those type of vehicles as well?
Yes. Yeah. Basically, I can, inspect anything and determine its actual condition and, under the hood, underneath the interior, so on and so forth. I hate to say it, but, take this loosely, but a car is a car. And, again, I've been looking at cars professionally for 35 years. With my eyes are trained, my passion is true and genuine. And I'll spend the time, I'll look at the car, and there's just a ton of information out there to obtain market value information. I have a lot of collectors that I know personally that are, have their own niche as far as what they collect. And, so I can bounce things off of them. I have a lot of avenues to obtain information and, put a realistic value on a vehicle.
Have you met Wayne Carini yet?
Yeah, as a matter,
I'm sure
he's a 40-minute doorstep to doorstep. He is a 40-minute ride from my house, and I started as a licensed appraiser in 1985, and his shop was within my territory. So I met Wayne in 1985 and have known him ever since.
Wow!
As a matter of fact, and he's a great guy, incredibly knowledgeable. I would never claim to be able to hold a candle to his automotive knowledge. He's got me beat hands down.
Well, he's seen so many things come through.
An amazingly popular television show, and they get phone calls all the time saying, can you come and appraise my car?
Oh, I bet.
And Wayne is just too busy, and that business. F40 Motorsports is one of his businesses, and then he has his restoration shop and then obviously he has the Chasing Classic Cars show, but they do not offer an appraisal business. They refer their customers to me.
That's cool. Fact, I was going to say, man, he's the type of guy you want in your corner.
Is Wayne's right-hand man as far as their inventory and sales. So it's Mike Roberts at F40 Motorsports. I was on the phone with Mike today talking about a customer. They have somebody formerly from Connecticut now living in New Mexico, and he has 2 very special Volkswagen trucks that he would like to have appraised. So he called up to Wayne Carini's shop and said, I need to have the vehicles appraised. Can you help me out? And they said, sure, call Jim Murphy at Muscle Car Appraisal. Sure enough, the guy rang my phone, and he said they had just gotten a foot of snow in New Mexico. So he said, once the weather clears, he said, I'll give you a call back, get you on an airplane, and fly you down here, and we'll get it taken care of.
It's like, did they even know what that was?
Well, him being from Connecticut originally, he knew, so he wasn't totally out of sorts. But what the rest of the people, were up to with the snow, I'm not sure.
I'll never forget, and this is kind of a sideline story, but when I was in basic training in South Carolina, of all places, we actually had a snowfall. And of course, you get guys from all over the country in there, and there were two guys who had never ever seen snow before in their lives, and they were mesmerized by it. It was so cool to watch. It's kind of like a pet for the first time, finding snow for the first time.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Jim, it's been a pleasure having you on tonight, man. I got one more quick one to throw at you. There you go.
Sure.
Can you praise that? No, I'm not. I'm not putting you on the spot. That's the
And
that's the 1960.
when I go to the Mecum auction in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, it's
Uh-huh.
in the local farm complex. That's the name of the facility, and they have a section of the building that is dedicated to tractors. So there's a tractor auction at the same time as the car auction. And I'll
Yeah.
wander to that end of the building and go into the multiple rooms that they have. They have tractors. The tires are taller than me. And they're just absolutely amazing machines to see.
Oh yeah.
And, look at the engineering that went into them and, the PTOs and everything else that they had going on. Definitely cool things to look at. And there are, Mecum throughout the year has a couple different auctions that are dedicated solely to tractors. And they're quite
I
popular.
wish they would. Yeah, I wish they would televise those because I haven't, or if they do, I haven't caught them yet. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, there's you can, I think it's on the Mecum website. If you go to mecum.com, you can search.
Uh-huh.
There is a channel that they're broadcast on, but I guess it's difficult to find and actually get that channel. My daughter's boyfriend is into tractors big time. So I told him about that channel, and he searched and searched, seeking out to be able to get that channel to watch an auction, and he just couldn't find it. And I don't remember the name of the channel, but I'm sure you can find it on the Mecum website.
Yeah. I'll just have to look a little harder. I know, but I'm with you. I love the way they're built. Actually, I love the way they're overbuilt, and especially the older ones. They just had so much style, And this was out of necessity. Actually, we bought this tractor to work, and we still work with this to this day. In fact, it was just maybe a year or two ago. We dug like 150 fence post holes with it on my son's property. So she doesn't. Yeah, she doesn't sit in a nice little barn, all pretty and nice. She works for a living.
Yeah, get out there and use it.
Absolutely.
There's companies out there that make conversion kits to put a modern Ford V8 in an old tractor. I've seen some of the double overhead cam, like a 4.6 liter double overhead cam engine in an old school tractor. It seems to be that, that world of tractor restoration and modification is alive and well.
And I couldn't be happier. Well, Jim, is there anything else you want to tell us about muscle car appraisal? It's been so informative thus far.
Yeah, go to the website, read the bios for Maurice and Don and myself. You'll see the 6 categories with a brief description as to the services that we offer. And feel free to reach out to us. It's our years of experience will bring you a lot of information about a car for many different reasons, and we're always happy to help.
Yeah, we'll get your website back up here and the information. That's how you contact Muscle Car Appraisal at 860-302-2295. Or you can visit their website at www.musclecarappraisal.net or email them at info@musclecarappraisal.net. It's just that easy.
Yeah. Oh, one last thing. Where
Sure.
we're going to go with the YouTube channel in the future. I'm going to do a series of videos that I'm going to consider myself to be a consumer advocate. Being that I was involved in the collision repair industry for so many years, I've watched the technology in cars change. And the safety systems that are in the automobiles today are just absolutely amazing. There's one of the new Mercedes cars. It watches you while you drive. If the car determines that you are falling asleep, it's going to change the climate control settings to bring down the temperature to help try and wake you up. And it's going to change the radio station in the car to something more upbeat, again, trying to pep you up and keep you awake. So the car's actually watching you drive. And then, of course, you have lane departure warnings, adaptive cruise control, and everything else. Well, if any of those systems, specifically the adaptive cruise control, there's radar sensors in the corners of the car, and it watches where it is in a lane. If it's starting to drift out of a lane, it's going to give you a warning, whether a light goes on. Sometimes you get a bell warning. Your driver's seat can vibrate. Cadillac has it. If you're drifting to the left side of your seat will vibrate. If you're drifting to the right side of the seat vibrates. Those radars have certain settings and parameters. So if they're disturbed in a collision loss or during the course of repair, they need to be put back into proper position and calibrated properly so that system functions as the manufacturer originally intended. So in some of our future videos, we're going to explain how that works and what needs to be done on the collision end and what type of education the shop needs to have, what type of equipment the shop needs to have, and their capabilities. So if you ever have the unfortunate experience of having your high-tech car damaged, you'll be a little bit more knowledgeable going to the shop to be able to ask them questions to make yourself comfortable as to whether or not they are the shop to actually do your repairs. And then, of course, there's, airbag systems. And there's cars with 9 airbags in them. And again, millions upon millions of dollars spent in the engineering and research to develop that airbag system. It has specifications to deploy to a specific millisecond based on a lot of parameters. And if the shop changes things, make a long story short, you have a fender, a hood, and a radiator support, and a bumper that are all engineered to have an effect on the airbag system of the car. If you start changing those parts to components made by someone other than the original manufacturer, you've now changed the structure of the vehicle, which is ultimately going to have a negative effect on the airbag system. And the airbag, more than likely, is not going to go off exactly as the manufacturer had intended. Maybe a little early, maybe a little late. Either way, it's not good. That system was designed to protect the vehicle occupant. And you start messing around with it, there's a chance that the occupant is going to suffer an injury that is more severe or just simply become injured. Whereas if it worked exactly as the manufacturer intended, they get up and walk away without a scratch. So, again, that's going to be some of our videos. We'll be at the drag strip showing you things right from the burnout box to the top end charge. We'll be at more car shows. Actually, maybe next week I might be over to Wayne Carini's place to make a video on some things going on over there. I'm going to be in some other high-end restoration shops. I'll be at a bunch of places that generally nobody else is going to get into. Everything is going to be automotive related in some way, shape, or form. Try and be educational and informative and entertaining all at the same time. So a lot of good things coming on the channel this coming year. So subscribe, ring the bell, and hope you enjoy the videos that we make in the future.
Yep. Again, he's at Muscle Car Appraisal. Do a search for that on YouTube, and I'll actually have a link below in the description. after we close shop here. Um, like I said, Jim, I can't thank you enough, man. I had a great time. It was wonderful information.
Well, thank you. The pleasure was all mine. And again, come Indianapolis time, I'll be in touch. Love to meet up with you.
I'm going to hold you to that, my friend.
All right, that's a deal. I'm a man of my
All
word.
righty.
That's a deal.
Fantastic. Well, you take care, and you guys, this is your guy for car appraisals. Contact him. I'll like I said, all his contact information be down in the description box when you're ready. Jim, thanks again, my friend. I think I'm going to close out the show here, and I wish
Okay.
you a great great evening and a great weekend.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, you bet. All right, people. That was another show in the books. What a great conversation I think that is. It's so important. I want to thank all of my chat guests. I want to thank everyone who's watching this post process. And while you're here, if you like what we're doing, if you think this was a good video, hit that subscribe button and by all means ring that notification bell so you don't miss another episode. That's going to be all for me tonight. I want to leave you with this. Remember, always treat others as you would want to be treated, and you'll make the world a better place. All right? Thanks again, and we will see you live.